A psilocybin treatment facility here in Portland is studying how psilocybin mushrooms may help reverse the effects of concussions and traumatic brain injuries. Our Spencer Schott took the trip down to experience Onward as they partner with the nonprofit Athletes Journey Home to research the benefits of psilocybin. He joins us now live.
Yeah, Pete, UFC fighters, mixed martial artists, and bare-knuckle boxers from all around the world are here in Portland this weekend. But they're not here just to try psilocybin therapy for the first time. They're trying to document whether or not magic mushrooms can actually heal brain damage.
It's gonna go cool with your hairstyle.
Weighing in at 135 pounds, standing 5'8", Mark the Shark Irwin is not getting into another ring, but is sitting down and getting hooked up to a brain scan.
I did one of these a couple months ago, and they were able to see how traumatic brain injuries have impacted my brain.
Irwin is the former bare-knuckle boxing world champ and 3-time Hall of Fame award winner, but his impressive career has some downsides.
I can see the impairment as a result of almost 15 years of getting punched in the head.
He says he suffers from short-term memory loss, has trouble forming sentences or stringing a complete thought together. So when his coach and mentor, UFC fighter Ian McCall, suggested trying psilocybin therapy, Irwin was ready to sign up.
It's definitely exciting to get to be, obviously involved in the nonprofit as a board member and then also as a guinea pig, right, in a lab rat of sorts, and getting to test out these therapies and treatments.
Irwin and 7 other fighters traveled to Portland for a guided mushroom therapy at Experience Onward, a psilocybin service center founded by former NHL player Daniel Carcillo.
I just wanted to have a facility and a center to be able to create SOPs and manuals that concussion survivors can come and use in order to get the same healing that I've found.
In 2015, Carcillo was diagnosed with dementia, but he says after multiple psilocybin treatments, his brain has healed, and now his center is continuing to research how mushrooms can help heal brain damage from concussions.
In order to get more people to listen to this, that it could be beneficial for them and to get over the stigma associated with it, we collect data. So we are a little bit different than some of the other centers.
They did some brain scan imaging, basic tests as far as like words, puzzles, computer games, things like that, to get a standard baseline for my overall like cognitive abilities.
Carcillo says human observation studies like these are an essential part of the research process and is hopeful it will lead to further legalization and more treatment options. So Irwin and the other fighters got their brains scanned today here on Friday, and then tomorrow on Saturday they'll get their first dose of psilocybin, and on Sunday they'll scan their brains once again so they can compare those images side by side and document the results. Reporting live in Northwest Portland, Spencer Schott, Fox 12 Oregon.